As you know by now, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are set to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes in the college football semifinal in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Big time matchup. And Kirby Smart, of all people, was the one who made a big hot take about Ohio State. He said this on Sunday during the college football rankings pregame show, or I guess postgame show. He called Ohio State, listen to this, a very physical team. Now, I get what he's trying to do, right? You have to have the coach speak. Kirby Smart is as good as any coach in the country at that, saying what you need to say, respecting the opponent, talk about how great they are. And I was fine with it until he called them a very physical football team. Listen, I know Kirby and the Dogs were taking on Georgia Tech when Ohio State was just getting run on left and right by Michigan. Biggest game of the season, playoffs on the line in their own building. And the reason they lost that game is because they were not physical. They were not tough. They are a soft football team. That's what I wrote on Monday. Got a lot of Buckeye fans really triggered about my story, but it is what it is. And I have the platform to, say what I believe is happening. And I think Kirby Smart is completely lying. He knows they're not a physical football team. Ryan Day would tell you the same thing. If they were a tough physical football team, they would have not got rolled by Michigan for 2 years in a row. They gave up 31 points to Maryland. But let's go over the numbers real quick. Because Ohio State's a good team. They are a very talented team. They're a top 5 team. And obviously, according to the committee, they're a top 4 team. They've got a really good quarterback. There are a lot of reasons why they are one of the best teams in college football. But don't tell me they're tough and physical. They lost, again, 45-23. They lost by 22 points against your arch rival at home. They were outscored 28-3 in the second half. That doesn't happen to tough physical football teams. I know because I cover the best one. And I'm not just saying it because I cover Georgia. They are the toughest, most physical football team in the country. I don't want to say by a mile, but it's clear they're number one in that department. That's what Kirby Smart preaches to his guys. Toughness, discipline, physicality. You mash them over and over, and you run them out of the building when you can in the second half. That's in their DNA. That's what this program is based on, and you don't see that with Ohio State. And again, it's just the eyeball test. If you've watched Ohio State play this year, you don't see any toughness or physicality. You see a lot of talented guys make a lot of plays, and there are times when they're running their opponent out of the building, right? But when you watch them, and even when they look good, they're not tough and they're not physical. They give up 530 total yards to Michigan, 252 on the ground. If you're giving up 250 yards, you're getting tossed in the line of scrimmage on both sides. You're getting whipped. And that's where games are still won, in my opinion, in the line of scrimmage. The most physical team who runs the ball better than the other team, more often than not, even in this passing era of college football, is going to win the game. And they even let J.J. McCarthy, who is an above-average quarterback, throw for 262 and 3 touchdowns. He's not as good as Stetson Bennett. I don't care what Michigan says. Their offensive line is not as good as Georgia's. And Georgia has the better backs. They did that without Blake Corum. Who knows what the score would have been if Michigan's best player and Heisman hopeful was in the game. Without him, they're still running for 250 on Ohio State. And Georgia's going to do the same thing. I think the offensive line are licking their chops to get after this. Again, they're soft. It's a soft Ohio State defense. Now, not everyone has drilled them, but even against Maryland, in the second to last game of the regular season, they gave up 402 yards of total offense. Tua's little brother, Tyler, probably should have looked up that name before I started this. But Tua's little brother, for now, went 27 for 37, 300 yards plus, over 300 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he did what he wanted. Again, if you're letting these quarterbacks who are above average, they're not bad, but they're not elite, they're not great. They both did whatever they wanted against Ohio State's defense, and in the trenches, they got pushed backwards and gave up some rushing yards. Let's look at some real numbers on Ohio State's soft, again, defense. They are 12th in the country in total defense, giving up 311 yards a game. Not bad. I mean, that's respectable. Top 12, can't ask for a whole lot better than that, right? They're 23rd in rushing defense, giving up 120 rushing yards per game, giving up 3.4 a carry. Not bad. Georgia's number 1 in that department. No one runs on Georgia. No one has run on Georgia the past 2+ years. But the Buckeyes are 23rd. You can run on Ohio State. And then this is what I found interesting, right? Red zone defense. They are 121st in the country out of 131 teams. A lot of it's because they're not put in position to, have a ton of opportunities. Opponents have only had 23 red zone trips, which says a lot, but also says if you can sustain a drive and get down there in the red zone, Ohio State will let you score. So in 23 red zone opportunities, they've given up 14 touchdowns and 7 field goals. So only twice has a team come into the red zone and not put up some type of points. But 2/3 of it, I guess, is the math, close enough. They're giving up touchdowns. So if they're not getting a 3 and out or just, giving up a first down and then making a punt, if you can drive the field, you're going to score. And that's not toughness. That's not physical. Georgia's the complete opposite. You can sometimes nickel and dime your way down the field against Georgia's defense, but when it's time to hunker down and hold them to field goals or no points at all, that's what Georgia does. You don't get into their end zone very often. Most of the time, it's when the game's already over, is when someone finds their way into the end zone against Georgia's defense. So two completely opposite red zone defenses we're talking about in this game. So again, they've got a talented quarterback. CJ Stroud can sling it. They're going to have to keep him in the pocket and make some tight throws consistently, get in his face and knock him down a few times. Then I think he turns into kind of a guy who sees ghosts a little bit, but he's really good at throwing to wide open receivers. If the receivers are open, they've got a couple yards ahead of the defender, he's going to hit that guy. Now, I'm kind of obviously, kidding there a little bit, but if he's tested, which he's going to be, is he going to fold or is he going to come back? He's down a wide receiver. The running backs, I think, are going through some injuries. I'm not sure if they really have one guy that's 100% right now. I could be wrong there, but I think they're a little banged up there. So he's going to need some help. The offensive line is not great, and Georgia has the best defense in the country. So we're going to see how tough Ohio State really is. There's, I think, a better chance of them getting blown out by Georgia than them winning the game. And again, this is not a hot take. I've been saying they're soft all season long. And if you're a fan base, you don't want to hear that from some guy covering another team, right? But I think even Ohio State fans will say, hey, we have to be tougher. We have to be stronger. We have to be better in the line of trenches if we're going to win this game. We can't use skill position players and hope CJ Stroud has the game of his life to win this game. You're going to have to play tough and physical. They're not that team. Michigan is that team, or as close as you could be to Georgia in the toughness and physicality front. But when Kirby Smart gets up there and says this is a physical football team, right? That's what he said. This is a very physical team. They're not a physical team at all. And they're not tough. They are soft, and I think Georgia is going to have their way with them in the trenches. If I'm wrong, feel free to let me know in the comment section, but Ohio State fans know this. Any college football fan that's watched Ohio State, not only this year, but last year, the year before, that's not what their program is built on. It's not what their team is built on. That's not where their staff preaches toughness and physicality. They don't have it. Michigan has built that reputation, but it took them a while. I mean, it feels like 3 years ago, those people were trying to run Jim Harbaugh out of town, but finally that toughness and physical part has crept into, or has been built into the program and the team, and that's why they've beat Ohio State the past 2 years convincingly. They were the tougher, more physical team. So, and again, I cover the best one. I know what toughness and physicality looks like at the college level because Georgia dominates in that aspect of the game every week and has for, again, most of the time I've been covering this team. And when I watch Ohio State, just again, with the eyeball test, I don't see it anywhere. I don't see it anywhere. So it was funny that Kirby Smart said that, but he's wrong. And I think deep down, he kind of knows that they're going to whip Ohio State. Again, I say that. That's what should happen, right? That's what should happen in my eyes watching these two teams play. But I think he feels good about their chances to win on both sides of the ball on the line of scrimmage. I think the offensive line is going to have a really good day. They've been playing really, really well together. And even, the guys coming in, Devin Willock, Amarius Mims, when they need to come in and play, they're dominating too. They're very strong up front, and no one blocking Jalen Carter. No one's blocking that guy. He's going to have a monster day. I think he's just dreaming every night of getting to CJ Stroud, who can be a little mobile at times, but you can get to him. And if you don't get to him, he's going to throw early, make some mistakes. So I think it's a big day for the secondary. I think Ohio State's going to be able to move the ball a little bit in the first half. That's what they do. They can score. They can move the football. But if you get up on them, I think Georgia's going to have a a solid opportunity. And I think Georgia's going to pound them down in the fourth quarter, just like Michigan did. I mean, Ohio State, they were waving the white flag in the fourth quarter against a rival at home. It was a bad look. That's not the look of a tough physical football team. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Drop them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now. I'll see you over on Dog Post.